Hey guys, I'm learning TFT, and in this video I'm going to share my practice process around augments. We're going to talk about what the best augments are for 1419. I'm going to do something a little bit differently here. I'm going to predict and guess what the best augments are using tactics.tools' tier list, and then go back into the data and see which augments I was right or wrong at and why. And so this kind of simulates Basso Skills' exercise on stage 2, pausing, predicting fights, and then being able to see what the difference is between your prediction and what actually occurred and why. And through that deliberate practice, it actually allows me to be able to learn more effectively. So if you're looking just straight up for the end result, to be able to just memorize it and regurgitate it without knowing why, this is not the video for you. My intent and goal for all of these videos is both to help myself improve at the game, to learn at the game better, help you in the process, but more importantly, to communicate how to learn. What is the best way to learn how to learn, the process of learning, as opposed to passive consumption of information that you're not going to retain well. So before I get started, and the other reason for doing this analysis is I was actually speaking with Marcel P yesterday. Let me see if I can pull up the Discord here. I was asking him how long he spends staring at stats every day, and he said, not as much as I should. Pretty sure the only way to really get good at this game is to spend the majority of your time on stats sites. I said, a lot of this was because once I started to look at stats way more and do this deliberate practice process, I don't have to look up stats on demand, let's say on MetaTFT or tactics.tools as much. And by therefore being able to make that decision quickly, like Marcel was making the point of, if let's say you, instead of looking up those stats, you know the best augment and can critically think about why it's the best in your specific situation and apply to your specific board, items, prior augments, etc., then you have way more time to create strongest board, you have way more time to roll, and that could be the difference, he's saying, of like 0.2 placements, which is at the highest levels of Challenger, that's huge. So a lot of the rationale behind doing this analysis is that deliberate practice allows you to then be able to make quicker decisions, to have that information integrated more deeply into your mind so that you understand it better than just at a very surface level where you just still need the assistance of, looking up this video, looking up the stat sites, but really critically thinking and understanding why these augments are good instead of just memorizing them. So before I jump into that, I do want to do a little bit of high level talking about how to learn, some psychology and life kind of lessons, but all of that still applied to TFT. So I want to thank Luis for just saying, that you're going to apply this stuff to your life. I love hearing that. Craig also said, thanks for the life lessons. A lot of these learnings are interchangeable between TFT and life. And so I'm going to keep at it. And I just want to say again, thanks for all of your support. All right, so in this part, and also if you want to just skip to the augment stuff, I'm going to include timestamps in the description. So feel free in all of these videos to just jump ahead to what you want. So I'm going to start by talking about what is deliberate practice. And I've talked about the science of learning before, where our memory decays really rapidly when you passively consume information. There's a time decay that you basically lose that information very quickly unless you're deliberately practicing. And so I want to talk about what is deliberate practice. And Jeff Colvin, in his book Talent is Overrated, defines deliberate practice as repeatable, mentally demanding, so it needs to be challenging. And we talked about this with the idea of flow in the last video, that you want something that isn't easy, where you're not going to be bored, but also not too challenging, because if you're too challenging, you're going to be overwhelmed by anxiety and it's going to be too hard. So something just right in that it's pushing your boundaries, where you're not too bored and not too anxious. Just enough anxiety. There's a book actually called that as well. Where you can get continuous feedback. So that's why what I'm going to do later and what Basso skills suggested for stage 2 is prediction, see what happened, and then fill in the gap. That is a feedback process. So I'm going to, in this video later, predict what I think are S tier augments, A tier augments, and then get feedback immediately on the stat sites on what I was correct on and what I was wrong on. And that feedback loop is what actually allows you to learn more effectively compared to just passively consuming information. And deliberate practice is something that you should be able to tangibly see an improvement in performance after you do it. Maybe not after, once or twice, but if you have a habit and a process of deliberate practice, you should see this feedback loop of improved performance. All right, so next we have practice makes myelin. I'm not sure if I pronounced myelin correctly, but myelin is, I'm just gonna call it myelin, is something in your brain. It's nerve fibers in your brain, neurons, that basically saying, Daniel Coyle in the Talent Code talked about this. Practice makes myelin, and myelin is what makes perfect. And so he's saying every human movement, thought, or feeling is a precisely timed electric signal traveling through a chain of neurons in your brain. And myelin is the insulation that wraps these nerve fibers and increases signal strength, speed, and accuracy. So if you think about your brain as like a computer, myelin is the thing that improves the signal speed and accuracy of information traveling through your brain. And the more we fire a particular circuit, the more myelin optimizes that circuit. And the stronger, faster, and more fluent our movements and thoughts become. So when we engage in this practice of deliberate practice, that strengthens the myelin, which is essentially a way of like the brain telling us, or us telling our brain, hey, this thing that we're focused on, that we're paying close attention to, that we are repeating, that it's demanding getting feedback on, this thing is important. We should remember it better. Therefore, the brain will strengthen that myelin, and then it's kind of like the government saying like, hey, let's pay attention to which freeways are the most popular. And if there's a lot of cars traveling on that freeway, let's make sure that freeway is maintained. Let's deploy our tax dollars to fixing the roads. Let's widen the roads. Let's make sure they're paved so that those roads can get the most efficiency in cars flowing through it. And the same thing happens with our brain. Next, we have slow down to speed up. So Daniel makes the point that a lot of times when you are practicing, you want to slow down. And the reason for that is because slowing down lets you pay closer attention to your errors, which makes it so that you get higher precision when your neurons fire. And he's saying when it comes to growing myelin, precision is everything. And so that's why when I'm going through VOD reviews or I'm like doing stage 2 analysis, a lot of times I'm pausing the video a lot. I'm going pretty slow. And I've had some complaints in some of my initial videos that's like, oh, can you speed up? Can you talk faster? And that's the challenge with today's like modern world where you have TikTok, you can swipe, increasing speed. The problem is you have so much passive consumption of information. Everything's going at 100 miles per hour. And the thing is, neuroscience tells us that when you're doing that, when you're speeding up and not slowing down, your brain does not retain information. And so that's why deliberate practice, slowing down, really critically thinking about stuff is how you actually improve and store information better in your brain. I talked about this idea before by Arthur Schopenhauer, but he said, it is only by reflection that one can assimilate what one has read. And the same is true for video consumption, just any form of consumption, right? Like you could just view it as I forget who talked about this. Mark Andreessen, a VC, talked about an information diet, that when you are consuming information, whether that is through books, whether that's through websites, video, whatever it is, information or like games is a form of information. When you're consuming information, one, there is a good information diet and like a healthy information diet and an unhealthy one. So that's one point on that point. But also, when you are eating too fast and you're eating junk food and you're not letting yourself rest after you eat, you are not letting your stomach really digest the food, that's a way for your body to get really unhealthy and for you to get sick or for you to get a disease. And Schopenhauer's point is that the same is true for content information consumption. When you slow down and reflect on what you read, when you really take the time to think for yourself why something is true that you have read about, that is when you really integrate the information well, when that information diet is really healthy and effective. Otherwise, you're just consuming like empty calories, basically, is like kind of the food diet term. But the same is true for information. If you are not actively reflecting, slowing down, practicing the information that you are consuming, all of this time that you're spending on YouTube, that you're watching on Twitch, like if you're not doing deliberate practice, it's in one ear out the other. It's like you're eating empty calories, you're consuming food, but you're just shitting it straight out. Or worse, it's like collecting fat in your body because you don't know what to pay attention to, and it's just useless information. Erich Fromm, a philosopher, said, optimum knowledge is to know more deeply. Whereas, so there's this distinction he makes between the being mode and the having mode. And this is like a very, I think, important but complex idea in our modern times. Is in the world that we live in today, there's so much materialism. And even now, like you can talk about like kind of spiritual materialism of like people kind of comparing like, oh, how much do you meditate? And like, do you do X, Y, or Z? That's like more mindfulness and all of this stuff, and bragging about it and comparing. And that's like kind of the culture that we live in today, is how can you have more stuff? And that has now become not just having more stuff from a material standpoint, but having more stuff from a mental standpoint. And Fromm's point is that it's more important to know things more deeply rather than to just collect information, which he describes as mere knowledge, without knowing how to apply it. Like if you're collecting information but you don't know how to use that information, well, what's the point of having that information? When I was running my startup, and anybody that's in product and data science should know this, there is a lot of the challenge in product is how do you collect data similar to TFT, but there's a cost to collecting data. There's a cost to analyzing that data. And the most important thing a lot of times is there are so many instances where people are collecting data and they're not using it. It's not actionable. That's the key idea. If information that you are consuming is not actionable, if you are not going to be able to apply and use it in a productive way, then there is no point to consuming that information. You're just engaging in a pointless exercise. All right. Eric Kandel, who was a neuroscientist, I believe he actually won a Nobel Prize on his discovery of how memory works. And he had a great book called In Search of Memory. And I believe there was a documentary made on him as well. But he was really, I think, one of the key initial people that discovered this idea that long-term memory requires training interspersed with periods of rest. So this idea of spaced repetition, where practice makes perfect, spacing the training with periods of rest enhances the ability to establish long-term memory. So he ran a ton of experiments on, I think, like micro cell, or I don't even know the scientific term, like small organisms, and like was injecting stuff in them to like establish how memory was stored. And this is his discovery with his research. And James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, said the amount of time you have been performing a habit, and this is grounded in research, is not as important as the number of times you have performed it. So this goes back to practice makes myelin. Every time you practice, it reinforces the myelin in your brain, which makes retrieving that information way faster. And so that's why you hear like NFL quarterbacks, they talk about this a lot. When they go from like kind of rookie to kind of middle of their career to veteran, so I've seen so many interviews where they describe it as, and this is like true for basketball as well, like LeBron, for example, or Kobe, like they'll just say like the game just slows down. Like they see so much nuance, and they're able to process so much more information and access information so quickly because the neurons that are firing in their brain become so reinforced that it's extremely fast and accurate. And it is through that repetition that allows them to get access to such an optimal performance. Shane Parrish, who's a blogger, has really talked about spaced repetition as a learning technique. And the idea is, and there's a lot of science behind this in graphs, but if you repeat, and you can kind of increase the time duration in between each repetition, but if you follow this repetition schedule, this is like one of the most optimal ways that you can really learn something over the long term. It may or may not be as relevant for TFT, at least for patch specific stuff, but if you're trying to learn fundamentals, this is very relevant for you. And Anders Ericsson, who is a psychologist, had a book called Road to Excellence. And he said that the number of years of experience is very weakly related to the level of performance. And that speaks to, for the most part, how ineffective people are at deliberate practice. Like most people in any industry of job, function, whatever, this can be definitely just as true at TFT. If you're not engaging in a deliberate practice of getting better and having a habit and a process of learning and learning how to learn, that's why you get hard stuck at a certain rank. And that's so true for life. There's so many people that, work at a job for 20 years and they're way worse than someone that goes in, they're like 1 or 2 years in, and that person is way more deliberate about how they're approaching things. I had a conversation with Marcel P in my interview with him. You can go back and check that out, where he talked about a CS professor at Stanford that he had talked about a y-intercept concept, which is that it doesn't matter if someone has a much larger head start than you. Let's say someone's up here and you're down here. If their slope is 0 and they're stuck here, all that matters is if you have a positive slope, you will eventually pass them over enough time. And that is the idea that Ericsson's talking about here, is if you commit to having a learning process and getting better at anything in life, including TFT, then time is your friend. And very few people are willing to play the long game. That, if you're willing to do that, you will have a huge competitive advantage in TFT and in life. All right, so recent studies have shown that deliberate practice is not only important for the acquisition of expert performance, but also for its maintenance. So again, this idea of deliberate practice. And furthermore, master teachers argue that full concentration is essential. And when it wanes, you should rest, because practice without full concentration actually can hurt your performance rather than improve it. And this ties with another cog-sci and neuroscience idea of willpower, that we actually have limited willpower. And so when you exert that energy, you then run out of kind of brain energy, basically, which is why he's saying that the best musicians often practice in the morning, and that's when your brain can perform optimally. And so we can actually use that with TFT to say, that you see so many streamers who are like doing 24-hour streams. they are optimizing for views over performance. That is not the way that you actually get the best performance. And if your goal is to get better at the game, to climb, to hit a ladder snapshot, that is suboptimal behavior. Expert performers only engage in about 4 hours of deliberate practice on a daily basis for extended periods. All right. So don't break the chain. Seinfeld had a methodology of becoming a better comic, and it's very simple. You get a giant calendar, and every day you hit an X when you do that thing. So if you want to create a habit of deliberate practice, you say, okay, I'm going to spend, and you can start small. You can say, I'm going to spend 10 minutes every day, 5 minutes. You can even start at 1 minute. The duration, as James Clear mentioned, the duration does not matter as much as the frequency. And when you are trying to get better at something, Seinfeld didn't say a thing about results. Didn't matter if he was motivated. Didn't matter if what he was doing was good or not. All that mattered was not breaking the chain. And when you don't break the chain, you get that X going. You start creating a flow of this habit, and then you don't want to break that chain anymore. And then over the long haul, right? Going back to this idea that a lot of people that have been doing something for a long time don't get better. But if you make a commitment to not breaking the chain on some deliberate learning process, you will just get better over time. All right, I've been spieling for a while, so let's go ahead and move forward with augments. All right, so I'm gonna go through by tier. I'm going to talk through what I believe is to be basically each of these tiers, where S tier is going to be like something like 4.0 to 4.2 in the statistics, and I'm going to filter this by GM+. A will be something like 4.2 to 4.4. This is like kind of middle, 4.4 to 4.6, 4.6 to like 4.7 or 8, and then like the worst augments in the game will be D. All right, so AFK, you can't perform actions for the next 3 rounds. Afterwards, gain 20 gold. Gold is pretty valuable right now. So I'm going to say this is like A tier. Band of Thieves is very good for tempoing. I'm going to say it's A tier. Right now, the meta is very built around 4 costs, getting to level 8, having a lot of gold, so that, because there's not much diversity. Right now, a lot of it is Varus, Karma Warriors, and Callista. And the thing is, Karma Warriors and Callista also all use preservers. So a lot of times it can be really hard to find a Rakan 2. So being first dibs on that 4-cost lottery makes a big difference. So gold is much more valuable in this meta than in other metas. Beggars can be choosers. You get 7 gold. Excuse me. And you get more augment rerolls. I don't think the augment rerolls are really that valuable. It has some like very niche value, but I don't value that much. Blistering strikes burns 5% of their max health over 5 seconds and reduced healing. It's good if you like don't have anti-heal in the late game. Not very good early. By the way, I'm going to do all of these stats as an aggregate. Last time I did my augment video, it was primarily organized around 2-1 to give you direction. But Blistering Strikes is not very good early because there's not that much healing in the early game. And you really do need healing reduction in the late game because there's so many preservers. Preservers have a ton of healing built in, and people build redemption on their Rakan. So it is important, but getting like some form of like red buff or Morello is just way better than burning an augment. So I'm going to say this is like C tier. Branching out on 2-1 is extremely strong. But later is not as good, so I'm gonna put this A, because there's so many good augments, or not augments, emblems that, and it gives you direction in kind of like discourages other players from contesting you when they already know, like, okay, you get a blaster emblem, like you're card committed Varus, and so other players are less likely to be like, oh, I'm gonna contest you as well. Unless you're in lower elo, then that might not be true. Called shot, set your win streak to +4, gain 4 gold. This is very situational. I think it's actually quite good in the right circumstance. So I'm gonna put it at A tier because I'm gonna be filtering GM plus. So if you're taking this, you have high confidence that you're gonna be able to streak stage 2, which can give you a lot more gold. Caretaker's Ally, like reroll's not very good right now. You can use it for gold. So I'm gonna say this is like B or C tier. Say C tier. Combat Bandages, just very good, like very solid generic augment. I don't think it's amazing, but just solid combat augment. Component Buffet, you get Anvil instead of component, and you get a random component, which for Varus and Callista, you want very specific components. It also lets you win streak instead of lost streak, because let's say you have a strong board, but you think you might be contested, or you need like bows or swords to, like, you need bows for Callista, or you need swords and gloves for Varus, but you kind of want to win streak too. So in those situations, it's tough to get your items and streak, because you usually, if you want to get carousel priority, you need to lose in stage 2. So in the right circumstance, if you're strong and you think you can streak and still like play towards your desired comp, this can be pretty good. So I'm gonna say this is like A tier. Exile's early game is not that great, but late game can be pretty good. So I'm gonna say that's A tier, like all included. Featherweights, reroll's not very good. Final Resistance, I think it's just overall pretty bad. Find Your Center can be good in the right circumstance. I'm gonna say that's B tier. Find Vintage, I suspect this is kind of similar to Trade Tracker in that the skill cap is very high and it's hard to play. So statistically, it's going to be worse than it probably actually is. But I'm going to say this is like, I think statistically it's going to show up in C tier, but it's probably, I would assume, more like B tier. Like if you have the right setup, if you can like kind of be somewhat reasonably strong in the early game to kill off some units, and play towards like warriors or Hecarim reroll, this could be really good. Good for Something is super strong. I think this might have the highest win rate at silver, I believe. It just gives you so much gold. The main thing to think about with this augment, and I learned this through, I believe, a coaching session with Appies, or maybe Ramkev, is that because it's item or units that aren't holding items that have a 50% chance to drop 1 gold on death, if you are going to pick this, your item components should be carry item components in stage 2, or you just are kind of like opening and not slamming. But you generally don't want tank items, especially you don't want like a stone plate, for example, because stone plate is designed around solo frontline, and then you'll either win the fight and maybe not even like have any units die, which is horrible. You lose all value on this, or you just lose the fight. But then and eventually you're gonna want carry items anyway. So the best way to play this is, let's say you just have carry items, you have like 2-star front lines, and you're kind of sacking your front line, and then you're killing units and gaining gold. Like that's usually the best way to play this. And then later in the game, it probably is better to skew towards like a Karma Warrior setup, where you just don't have tank items and you have like melee in Fiora and Gwen and like Karma. That's oftentimes pretty good, because you're going to have a lot of gold, which will let you hit a lot of your forecasts. But yeah, this is a lot of value. Head Start gain, I don't think I've ever seen this. Is this even in the game? I'm just going to ignore that one. Help is on the way. After 8 player combats, choose 1 of 4 support items. Support items are pretty strong. It's especially strong with like melee. So I'm gonna say this is like, I don't know, B tier, A tier, like end of A tier, early B tier. Iron assets, gain a component anvil and 4 gold. Say it's like B tier. Item collector in the right circumstance I think can be good, but generally I think ever since they nerfed it is like not that strong. I'm gonna say this is C tier. Item grab bag is just too much variance. Say bottom of C tier. Item ladder, C tier. Items just in general right now I don't think are as good, because just gold is way more valuable than items at the moment, because your stage 4 player damage matters way more than the items. Like if you get items in stage 2, it makes it so that you have a stronger early game at sacrifice of your late game, but gold is king right now, and so winning stage 2 is less important than having a stable stage 4. Keepers is good with warriors. I'll put that at like, I don't know, bottom of B tier, start of C tier. Late game specialist is also very circumstantial. It's like you really need to have a lot of HP preserved, but it can be really good in the right circumstance. Latent forge, similar to help is on the way. Lunch money in the right circumstance can be pretty good. I'm gonna put that A tier. Again, I'm assuming this is at GM plus, so if you're taking this, you're probably confident that you're gonna streak and gold is valuable. Mentorship, I've talked about this in my stage 2 analysis. I've been really undervaluing the strength of this. This is a very good early game augment and can help you streak. That 150 HP is no joke, and the 12% attack speed is also quite good. Misconnection, solid, especially with Portal. If you're playing Portal, getting those two stars increases your Portal strength by a lot. I have not seen this. I think both of these are like deprecated augments. 1, 2, 5 gives you a little bit of everything. Probably like B tier. 1, 2, 3s. You could kind of see this as the equivalent of gold, which is what, 2 plus 4 plus 3, 6 plus 3, 9 gold. Versus like, is there anything else that gives you straight up gold? I guess misconnections is 12 gold. So this is, I'd say it's B tier. I don't think you can get misconnections at 2-1. I forget. But yeah, this is probably a little bit worse than that. Over encumbered gives you 3 item components, which I think is solid. Pandora's bench reroll's not that great right now. I'm gonna put that C tier. Pandora's items aren't that good right now. Ascension, this can be good in the right comp, like in Callista. It can be solid, but otherwise it's like not that generically useful. And augments that are very specific to certain comps make your game far less flexible, so it's like not as good. Patience is a virtue. This actually gives you a ton of gold. It's like 4 gold if you didn't buy champion, which is great for reroll. I suspect you can also play this like just on a standard level 8 board as well. It's almost like your full opening for 4 gold a round, which if you play it right can be better than precise planning. So I suspect this is actually undervalued and probably played in not optimally. I'm gonna put this at, maybe people are playing it right. I'll put this A tier. Oh, there's 2 placebos. I don't know why. I think 15 gold is the one that I've seen recently, which 15 gold is pretty strong. Precise planning, very good. Did they nerf this recently? No. Pumping up, it's like good with Callista, otherwise not great. Recombobulator, 2 high variance, right? Good in the right circumstances. Restart mission, very strong. Stabilizes your stage 3 really well. Just preserves you a ton of HP. Risky move, super strong. Also, right now I'm not organizing these in each of these tiers, just for time of like effectiveness. Rolling for days is 22 gold. That's really good. And if you're going for, especially if you're contested, like this is super strong. So I'm gonna put A tier. Row rejuvenation's like decent in the right circumstance with melee. Silver spoon 10 gold value. So this is like 3-2. This is gonna be on 2-1, which can help you tempo in the right circumstance. I'll put this A tier. Silver ticket, gain a free shop reroll after every 4 rerolls. This is mainly good with reroll, so it's not, reroll's not that great right now. Put this here. Silver veil, melee's like kind of meh. I mean, if you're playing warriors, it's like good, but I think there's just gonna generally be better augments than that. Spoils of war, solid. Like you can get econ from this, especially if you're win streaking. This can be really powerful. Stationary support, a training dummy with a support item, can be quite good. Stim pack, gain 4 components. Like when you compare this to over encumbered, you get 1 more component, but you have to kind of sack your early game. I mean, you're kind of sacking early game here too. Although this gives you more opportunity to high roll if for some reason you're able to actually win and get those items. I'm gonna say this is like B tier. Team building reroll is not very good. I think the one situation that this can be decent is if you're playing a 3-cost reroll, which mainly right now is like Jinx Wukong. Especially if you get spin to win, this can be quite good if it helps you hit. Teaming up, not very good. Golden Remover, not very good. Tiny Titans. I mean, if you have some type of loss streak augment, like a fortune or what doesn't kill you, this can be good. So in the right circumstances, this can be good, but I think it's generally not great. C tier. Triforce, again, could be good with like Jinx Wukong, but very narrow impact. Unified could be good like kind of late game. Early game is very not good. Put this C tier. Young, Wild, and Free. If you're taking it on stage 3-2, you're probably taking it because you're already in a position where this is kind of like a, if you're already ahead, you kind of get more ahead type of augment. All right, so let's compare this with the actual results. And then over here, I'm gonna pull up this one. So let's see if we can see this. Okay. So I'm just sorting by actual average place. So we have at the top, we have risky moves. So that one's right. Restart mission. Exiles. So exiles, I think I was undervaluing exiles because early at 2-1 is not good, but late it's like super strong. All right, so I need to be bumping up exile value. Good for something up here. Called shot. So again, called shot is very circumstantial. This can be very good in the right circumstance. Although I'm already kind of in, I think I said I was gonna cut it off at 4-0 to 4-2. So if I'm actually making that cutoff, then it's really just risky moves and restart mission. So I'm gonna move exiles. Good for something. Called shot stays here. Mentorship and precise planning is next. Okay, keepers. Where's keepers? Did I undervalue keepers? Okay, keepers 4.3. I guess this is just very good for tempoing too in the early mid game. It's actually much better, yeah, at 2-1 and 2-2, 3-2 than later. It's particularly good for Kassadin reroll, and if you have like early warriors. Young, Wild, and Free, horrible at 2-1, extremely good here. Again, this is gonna be skewed because if you're taking this, you're kind of already in a great position. Stationary support. Very solid. Band of Thieves. Spoils of War. Okay. Placebo. Yep. Combat bandages, very generically good. All right, so I need to move that one up. Row rejuvenation. Oh, that's surprising. I guess this is just speaking to the strength of warriors, probably. It's the play rate is also really low, but it's better late. Makes sense because you have more units to get that value. Where did I put row rejuvenation? Oh, I put it C tier. Okay, I need to increase the value in my mind of row rejuvenation. All right, over encumbered. Okay, so then I need to. I think I'm gonna cut this off here. So let's just say over encumbered is the last A tier. After row rejuvenation, we'll cut it off as like 4.45 at B. So missed connections at B. I have that here. Final resistance. Each time an allied champion dies, 30% shred and sunder, which is actually quite good late. That's interesting. So it's mainly if you don't have some form of shred or sunder, and I also suspect that this is probably strong in a mixed damage type comp like Fiora and Karma. Because you get shred on both. Shred and sunder. Final resistance. Wow, I put that D. Okay. So I need to really bump up final resistance, especially if I don't have it already and I have mixed damage. Which can also be good on Varus, because if you have Varus and a Bar 2 or a Xerath 2, getting that shred and sunder is really valuable, especially in the late game. Like especially if you're playing against, there's so many Rakans out there with like a stone plate. You really that's like having an extra item on your unit. All right, unified. Where's unified? Unified is 4.45. Rolling for days, very solid. We were talking about just how much value that is. Okay, we're bumping that down. Component buffet, solid. Silver Veil. Okay, I was undervaluing Silver Veil. I think in general, I've just been undervaluing all the melee ones. So Silver Veil, row rejuvenation, combat bandages. I gotta bump up that. And again, that's probably very much skewed towards warriors being strong. Triforce. Very circumstantial. I suppose the sample size is so small, but you're only really taking this if you're already playing like a 3-cost reroll. Lunch money. Iron assets. Where's iron assets? Okay, here. AFK. Okay. So AFK is just not as good as I thought it was. I mean, if we compare that 20 gold to, can you get placebo at 2-1? No. But something you can get at 2-1, like let's say risky moves. You gain 33 gold compared to 20 gold. And risky moves gives you carousel priority. It's just much better. Good for something should just give you way more gold across the game than 20 gold as well. Precise planning, across 7 rounds, you come out positive. And you can't hold units. So I got lower AFK in my assessment. AFK you really want to take if you don't have any direction and you don't have any better augments, it's still B tier, which is solid. But if you have a strong board and you can somehow win some of those rounds and preserve HP, it's a lot stronger. Blistering strikes. Where do we have blistering? Oh, here. All right, blistering strikes we're going to move up. It just speaks to like kind of the value of of anti-heal. Branching out 4.5. It's 4.4 at 2-1, but then a lot worse at 3-2, just because 2-1 it's way easier to like get direction from the emblem. 3-2 you kind of have a more established board, so it's harder to pivot. But it's still, augments are just still very strong. So branching out B tier. It would be A tier at tier 1 at 2-1. Late game specialist. Do we have that at B tier right now? Okay, we'll move that one up. Caretaker's ally. Gain a random 2-cost champion now. So just the gold value on that, even if you don't get the 3-star. If you get like a, I don't know. I guess there's a decent amount of 2-costs that are okay. Partial Ascension in the right circumstance can be solid. Silver Spoon, 4.56. All right, so that's, I gotta lower that in my head. Pumping Up, pretty much Callista oriented. Stim Pack, Stim Pack here. Item Collector, interesting. I mean, this again is going to be dependent on like portals where, let's say you get multiple components off of Carousel, or you already have, let's say you took buried treasures like Prismatic or something. So at 3-2, actually, Item Collector is really strong. Okay, so I need to be at 3-2. Item Collector is really good, which makes sense. Late game, you just have more items. Okay, so I need to bump up Item Collector in my mind. Teaming Up, solid. As you can see, the 2 random tier 3s is basically, this is 6 gold in a component. All right, and then now I'm gonna make 4, 5 to 4, 6 is B tier, and then I'm gonna move this to C tier. So patience is a virtue. I was overvaluing that, although the win rate on this is actually quite high. So this is probably also a high skill gap thing, and it's a very good late game augment. So this has a very high cap if you play it right. So I'm actually gonna put it in B tier, because I suspect if you are using it in a very effective way, I think the most effective way is you just sack the early game. You kind of just like full open, you don't buy units, and then you use that gold to roll down on level 8. I suspect is maybe the optimal way to play it. 1, 2, 5, this just gives you gold. We're moving into C tier now. Latent Forge. I think I was overvaluing Latent Forge, because artifacts are pretty good right now, especially for like, I mean, any of, maybe except for Callista, but like Varus comp can use artifacts well. Karma Warriors can use artifacts well. I'm surprised this is so low. I guess you're just sacking so much of your early game. Tiny Titans is here. Item Ladder is here. Recombobulator. Find Your Center. Was I overvaluing that one? Yeah. Plus 15% max health. I mean, this is good like with Wukong, Spin to Win, or you like Rakan. But I guess it's just not as good generically, because I guess with Varus, you could solo frontline if you have Stoneplate on your Tom Kench, because you kind of want enemy units to clump around your frontline. But it's not great on Karma Warriors. It's just not too flexible, since you usually want Stoneplate with this. And yeah, just not too flexible. Golden Remover. Yep. Featherweights. 1 and 2 costs not good. Help is on the way. Oh, Help is on the way. I overvalued that as well. So I'm just overvaluing these. I mean, this goes back to just items. Items are not as strong as gold right now. So both Latent Forge and Help is on the way versus like risky moves. You could kind of see Restart Mission as gold as well. I mean, Restart Mission is... Let's see how much gold this is. A 2-star 3 cost is 9 gold. So that's 18 plus 3 times 6. Another 18. 18 plus 18. 36 plus 3. 39 gold. Versus at 3-2, like... maybe you have half of that in gold value. Usually. So not only is this giving you a bunch of gold, it's helping you stabilize your mid game. Okay. What's next? Featherweights we just went over. Help is on the way. 1, 2, 3s. It is giving you gold, but it's just way less gold than your alternatives. Where did I put 1, 2, 3s? Okay, I put that bottom B tier. Not that far off. Like if you're looking at this gold value, this is what, 2 plus 4, 6 plus 3, 9 gold in value versus 33. Like, yeah, understandably, this is not very good. And again, the early game combat power is not as strong. Item grab bag. Not too great. All right, now we're getting to like D tier. Find vintage. I'm going to keep here just because like the win rate's really high. So skill, this is like a skill check. Team building, not good. Beggars can be choosers. Pandora's items. Items in general, just not good. Pandora's bench. Reroll's not great. And then we have, oh, placebo is a early game pick. Oh no, so this was here, and then this is the other placebo. So, okay, so this is the 3-2 placebo with 15 gold solid, but the 2-1 placebo with 8 gold, you compare that with like risky moves, it's just not worth the trade-off, and 2% attack speed is not very good. So, okay, placebo is not very good. So even though we say gold is good, you gotta look at how much gold and compare to what other augments. All right, so this is the silver tier list. Now we're gonna move on to the gold tier list, and I'm gonna make this big again and try to predict gold. All right, Golden Quest, I believe has a high win rate. Highest next to Trade Tracker, but it's really hard to pull off, and I think the AVP is pretty bad. Aggressive preservation with preservers. I mean, preservers is played a lot right now, so it's very solid and has a very, I think, reasonably strong early mid game. All that shimmers with Varus on gold collector is quite strong. I don't know what the difference between these are. Oh, all that shimmers plus. I'm just gonna do one of those. Arcana Crest towards Varus is good. Arcane Conduit is Arcana Conduit solid. Ascension, I feel like there's just not that many. Avenge the Fallen. I wonder if this is S tier. Yeah, I mean that's really good. Balanced budget is 28 gold. If you get this on 3-2, that helps you get to your 8 roll down faster. I'm gonna put that B tier. I'm gonna skip these like plus ones. Bastion, Crest, not good. BS Friends. I mean, Zig's reroll is like not really a thing anymore. Big Gains can be good, I believe, with like if you get an early Wukong and you go Wukong reroll, or Kog'Maw reroll, but generally it's probably not very strong. Big Grab Bag, very solid. Blaster Crest, good. Blossoming Lotus. I think fights generally aren't that long, so this just gives your team crit chance, which I think can be decent on blasters, but generally you don't want to use a whole augment for that. Built different right now, I don't think is that great. Capricious Forge, like somewhere in the middle of the pack. Sugarcraft, not great. Although it's like better at lower elos. Caretaker's Favor, there's a lot of comps playing around level 8 boards, which is solid, but items are less valuable than gold. Category 5, I think solid. Cauterize with Varus. Pyromancer's attacks deal 5 bonus magic damage for every 3 cinders collected. I don't think this is that good. I'll keep that there. Chrono Quest, I think Chrono Quest might be up here. The 6 Chrono is really strong. Clear Mind is gold, but it's like very hard to play and you lose a lot of HP. Clockwork Accelerator, your team gains 10% attack speed every 3 seconds. Cluttered Mind, hard to play. Combat Bandages, just very solid augment. Combat Caster with Fiora and Karma is very good because both of them have very low mana costs, so they benefit a lot. Crash Test Dummies, not very good. Crown Guarded, I think items in general just not great. Incanters suck right now. Deja Vu. Double Down can give you a lot of gold. Although you kind of need to scout the lobby to see if anybody else is... Actually, Double Down is better than like Fortune and what doesn't kill you, because I believe even in a full open situation where both are full open, you lose your gold lose streak, but your like length of your loss streak continues after like the tie. So I think Double Down is like A or S. Draconic Mastery, not very good. Dragon Spirit, items in general just not great. Dual Q is like pretty solid. Eldritch, actually Eldritch with the buffs maybe C tier. Epic gives you a lot of gold value. Escort Quest is like, if in the right circumstance, can be really good. Eternal Growth. Okay, Explosive Growth. I think this is 4-2 and this is 3-2. 32 gold at 3-2 is actually quite solid. Fairy is very strong right now. Fast Forward. Fast Forward, if you get it with like 6 Chrono, can be good later, but like generically, I suspect it's like kind of, I don't know, I'll put it B tier. Fortune AVP is probably like pretty bad. Frost is very strong early game. Heroic Grab Bag, reroll's not great. Most of these hero augments are not great now. I think High Voltage is good because it's just very good tempo. And Spark is quite good late. And actually played a game with Marcel and he picked High Voltage, tempoed a lot early, and then still played towards Varus. And it actually does decent in the stats for Varus because you eventually want to have a dual carry with Bard and later with Xerath, which the +3 hex radius helps a ton. Because usually if you just have a regular Spark, Xerath won't actually get that shred on the backline. And it does 25% more damage, which helps just like take down a little bit of the enemy HP. And with all the splash damage with Varus to get that execute, every little bit of damage you can do to like the surrounding units makes a huge difference. Plus Xerath does like all of his raining down fire. So just the combination of High Voltage, Varus, and Xerath can be quite strong. And of course it's very good with Gwen and Karma. Higher education on Rise 6 Scholar is quite good. Put that A tier. Honeymancy, I don't know. In the right circumstance, it could be good. I'm going to put it B tier or C tier. Hunter Crest, if you get Hunter reroll, it can be really strong with 6 Hunter. And I think early game Hunting Frenzy is just very good tempo. This is like a very good top 4 play. Especially if you can get like an early Twitch 2 or Kog'Maw 2 off of this. That's very strong. Incanters aren't good right now. Inspiring Epitaph, like just a solid augment, combat augment. Not great, not horrible. Keepers. I was undervaluing Keepers silver, so maybe this also goes A tier. Item Collector, we saw I undervalued in silver. It's very good at 4-2 when you have more items. Learning to spell is very situational. It can be good if you get a Vagar out of the box and you can start killing units early. But there's not that many situations that's that useful. Little buddies with Rise and Callista can be strong. Long distance pals, not good. Mage Crest. I don't know. Mage just in general is really hard to play right now. Rods with AP are not that strong right now. Even with Karma, you don't really want to play Karma primary carry. You want to play Gwen primary carry. But usually you're playing dual Fiora carry, so that dual carry doesn't really benefit from the AP. So this is like a little bit better in like a vertical Scholar Rise board, but it's still like not that strong and it's very situational. Martyr is better late game. Put that here. Mentorship is just generically strong. Molten Caramel. Multi-striker vertical is actually quite solid. Metabolic. You kind of view this as like econ. You can just hit gold intervals earlier and you just don't worry about your HP as well much early game. Not today. Items in general just not great. Econ. Although I think maybe this is like here. Pillar Flame. Pilfer also like kind of here. Portable Forge. Portal Crest. Wow, I have all the emblems up here. I don't know, is Portal Crest better than Blaster and Arcana? Or even Frost? Maybe these are all just up here. Potions, Witchcraft is not that great. Although this with 6 or 8 witches is actually really strong. I lost a 9 fairy board to Ramkev when he had, I think he just had 6 witch with potions and he beat me. Mages aren't good. Preserver's Crest is like okay. Press the Attack is like solid on multi-strikers. Prize Fighters, if you can streak early, this is so much value. Just like the amount of item components that you get. You kind of play it similar to Escort Quest, but I think this just has more upside. If you get Prize Fighter also with like What the Forge or Item Collector is extremely strong. Pumping Up, Pyrocrest. Pyrocrest with Varus is actually quite solid. Raid Boss, like if you're playing Hecarim reroll, this is good, but otherwise it's like, this is too situational. Gold is really valuable. Reinforcement. Replication is like kind of high variance, but it can be good in the right circumstance. Royal Rejuvenation, we saw in silver, it was higher than I expected. Royal Guard with Callista is still very strong right now. I haven't seen Salvage Bin in forever. I don't think that's a thing anymore, right? Scapegoat, like solid. Scapegoat actually is a way that you can get some econ and still try to win streak. It's kind of this middle ground between like Escort Quest versus, let's say, What Doesn't Kill You, where you kind of want to lose. The dummy value is actually non-trivial because it lets you kind of, it's basically like having an extra tank on your board, right? So it lets you get gold and possibly streak. The key thing is you probably want a solo frontline so it dies first. Scholar Crest is like solid because six Scholar is good. Eldritch is not great right now, though. If you can actually get like an Eldritch emblem, like let's say, or you have like a portal with Wandering Trainer, 7 Eldritch is still quite solid right now. Scoreboard Scrapper, like probably middle of the pack. Shapeshifter Crest, not very good. Shields Up, not very good. Slam-In, gold value. Sleight of Hand gives you a lot of tempo early. Spellblade's not good. Not good. Oh, Spin to Win. Spin to Win, I think, has the highest AVP right now. Spoils of War, like middle of the pack. Stand United on Varus is really good. But it's kind of situational, so I'll put it B tier. Stars Are Born. Like reroll is not very good right now, so this is like C tier. Sugarcraft, better at lower elos, better at on portals with items. Support, we saw items in general are just not that great. The golems are quite strong. Sweet Tooth, just hero augments I think are just all bad right now. Teaming Up. This getting 2 4 costs is actually quite solid, especially if you're playing 4 cost meta. This, I know I said items aren't that great right now, but the Bramble Vest in my items video in stage 2, Bramble Vest has one of the highest round win rates. I think in large part due to this augment. Also, AD is very, very common. You have Varus, you have Callista. So I think this is mainly a tempo. Like if you already have a Blitz 2 with like a Warmog and you add this, like you're 5 streaking. So you can kind of see this as like econ almost if you have a 2-star tank, mainly Blitzcrank, plus another tank item. That's like a guaranteed 5 streak. 3's a crowd on Varus is like solid, but like it's kind of too narrow. 3's company is 15 gold, but compared to some of the other stuff, I don't think that's very good. Trade sector reroll is not great right now, but you are getting a good amount of gold value from that. Like that's what, 14 gold a stage. And you can bank those rerolls, so it's like solid. Trade tracker, I just put a video out on this. I'm gonna put this up here. I think people are just playing this wrong or don't know how to play it. If you want to check out my last video, I show you an easy recipe to unlock trade tracker, and once you do, it's like oftentimes an easy top 4 and gives you the highest chance of getting first place. I believe this has the highest win rate in the game out of any augment, with maybe the exception of Golden Quest, but it's like way more reliable than Golden Quest. Transfiguration, C tier. Too healthy is mainly Kog'Maw reroll. Too tanky, same with Kog'Maw reroll, is actually I think quite good in the stats. Unified is good late. Unleash the Beast is I think quite good with melee, with Fiora or Hecarim. Vanguard, vertically inclined. Wandering Trainer I actually think is doing pretty well right now. What doesn't kill you? Just solid econ and items if you don't have direction. Winter is coming. Oh, Warrior Crest. Warrior Crest I think is actually quite good right now. Winter is coming is good for tempo. Witchcraft Emblem is quite good. Worth the wait. You have my bow with like Callista is good. You have my sword with Varus is good. And Zap Attack. Zap Attack I actually think is probably the best hero augment right now, but still not great. Okay. So this video is taking longer than I expected. So I think for gold and prismatic, I'm just gonna focus on like the S and A tier to see if I have any gaping holes in at least my understanding of what's really strong. All right, so we have spin to win, fairy crest, good so far, portal crest, warrior crest, yeah. All that shimmers is up here, okay. So that's playing towards Varus. Escort quest. Where do I have escort quest? Oh, I have that B tier. Okay. I mean, this is really like, I suspect this is much harder to play if you're lower elo, but in the right circumstance, this can be really strong. But it's high variance. This is like a first or eighth strategy. Chrono quest, crests, little buddies is up here too. Just very strong with Rise and Callista. Arcane Conduit. Okay, so now we're going, okay, Arcane Conduit. It's good with Varus. So we're gonna move now to A tier. So Royal Guard. Prize Fighter. Support Golem 1. Hunting Frenzy. Yep. Vanguard Crest. Okay, this is Vampiric Scepter Warwick primarily. Alright, I'm just gonna put that like here. Too tanky? Interesting. So that's, I think that's like Blitzcrank. Zap attack and or Kog'Maw reroll with Blitz Nunu frontline. I'm not going to put that much higher because it's so situational. Frost Crest, lower. Higher Education. Nunu, I'm just going to ignore that. Arcana Quest, Crest, lower. Double Down is here. Molten Caramel. I guess I'm undervaluing Molten Caramel. Where did I put that? Wow, okay. I just feel like reroll is just not great right now. Oh, okay. It's probably up here because you still probably play towards Varus and then you just have a dual carry. Okay, I can see that. Especially if you already have like a rumble or especially if you have 2 rumbles and you get to streak your early game and just gets you a ton of gold. I basically see this as like a tempo Varus play. So, okay, I see that. Slammin', Econ, Witchcraft, yeah. Honeymancy. All right, undervaluing Honeymancy. Where did I put that? Oh, wow, I put that C tier. Okay, so this is with, probably still with Zap Attack and Ziggs or Kog'Maw reroll. Capricious Forge. I think I put that C. Yeah. This is a really good on Warriors. Like, it's good on Fiora because you want to first itemize your Gwen. And it's also very good on like Camille or Briar, which you can even hit on stage 4. Like a 1-star Briar or Camille with Capricious Forge can be really strong. It's kind of like the equivalent of Hecarim 1 on stage 2 with Unleash the Beast, Sterix Gauge. That's really strong too. Speaking of that, I overvalued that here. Epic. Where did I put Epic? I assume I put it A tier, no? Did I put it B tier? Okay, yeah, it's right here. Inspiring Epitaph. And there's so many gold augments, like hard for me to figure out where I put stuff. Okay. Raining Gold. And and avenge the fallen. Yeah. Okay, so everything else is lower. Not too much. So Blaster Crest, I'm just gonna figure out which ones I overvalue now. Blaster Crest is much better in 4.2, 4.3, but overall is like kind of early B tier. I mean, it's situational, right? It can be 8 tier if you pick it in the right circumstance, because it gets really strong at 6 Blaster, but you don't get that much of a boost in the early game. What else? Trade Tracker. I mean, Trade Tracker has been improving in the average placement, but the win rate, yeah, like this is not filtered by gold. Trade Tracker has the highest win rate in the game. I'm gonna say that's the best augment in the game. Screw this AVP. Like, people, check out, if you're not sure how to play it, check out my other video. Best augment in the game here. Okay, let's see. Anything else I overvalued here? So Avenge, Fallen 4.4, that's not that far off. Aggressive Preservation, not that far off. Big Grab. Bag, like, okay, that's B tier. I think I'm just overvaluing the items. Combat Caster, 4.47, not that far off. Dual Q. Okay, Dual Q is like, it's serviceable, not like as high value. High Voltage, solid, 4.46, not that far off. Keepers, same thing. Mentorship. Okay, solid. Sleight of hand. Oh, interesting. I thought, okay, so this just goes back to like, it's a tempo play, but even at 2-1, it's like not that strong. It's better at 3-2, because usually if you take this, you probably already have another TG slammed, or you might be playing it in conjunction with the Prismatic Lucky Gloves. But I'm overvaluing that. Thorn Plated Armor. Okay. My analysis on that is probably, I think it still holds if you have like a Blitz 2 with another tank item, especially if you have like on a portal with extra item components to start, like a item anvil. If you have like 3 item Blitz, I think it's still worth taking the right spot, but it's probably not overall not great. What else am I missing? Mentorship. Wandering Trainer. Yeah, right ballpark. Winter is coming. Blaster Crest. Okay. All right, so the rest of my A tier is like kind of in the right ballpark. All right, let's move on to Prismatic. Upgrade Adventure. There's rerolls like kind of gone. This is mainly good in, I think in multi-striker reroll, maybe with, no, not with Warwick. Yeah, it's not that many situations that's good. I think Arcana Crown's very good right now. It's like not great. Immediately go to level 6. This is just really good for winning stage 2, which gives you easy top 4. Bastion Crown. This is like hard to play, but if you have a good tempo spot, the way, I mean, Dish Soap won the world title last set off of this. It's very hard to play well, but if you think you can streak early and use that extra gold to keep pushing levels early and just keep getting more early 2-star champions at a higher cost tier, like the moment you lose, especially if you lose early, like you're kind of screwed. But if you can streak all of stage 2 and stage 3 off of this, it's like kind of an easy top 4. And then you do have high cap potential like Dish Soap did in his championship game. Blaster's very strong right now. You got Shojin and an Ezreal. Blinding Speed. It's like decent with Callista. In the right circumstance, it can be good. I think it's still here. Blossoming Lotus, bad. Build-A-Bud, it's like okay. Can be a top 4 play, but I suspect it's like lower than 4.5. Buried treasures, we've talked about, items aren't that good right now. Call to Chaos, probably like middle of the pack. Items like aren't that great, but I think the Radiant item is like solid. Chrono Crown. I think the Archangels is like not perfect. I mean, it's solid on Karma, but yeah, like the gold Chrono Crest was S tier. I think statistically this is A tier. Dark Alley dealings on Fiora, and then the Trickster's Glass on Morgana is quite good statistically for the Karma Warriors board. Although this is kind of nuanced, so maybe that's like too narrow. Dual purpose, first time you buy XP each round, gain 2 gold. Whenever you buy XP, reroll shop. It's just a lot of gold value. Eldritch. Fairy's very good right now. Final Ascension. Flexible, I think, is like high cap, but high variance, middle of the pack. They balance this pretty well. Frost. Giant Mighty. Going long. It's a lot of gold value. Again, all these gold values are really good. Hard commit. High variance. Hedge fund is gold value, but you have to sack a lot. It's hard to play. Like you're kind of playing this like Fortune, lose streaking early, getting to 100 gold, and then doing a massive roll down. Probably on like 4-1 or even 3-7 at level 8. Because you absolutely have to hit before everybody else, and you need to hit your 4 cost 2 stars immediately and start win streaking for this to work. Because otherwise you just die. Honey Crest was solid. So maybe this is in the middle of the pack. Hunters are quite strong. I'm the carry now. Just a solid like combat. Let's say this is here. Items not that good. Incanter. I don't know what the difference is in these statistically, but I think these are just mostly C tier. Level up, again, Econ. Living Forge, I think, actually has the best AVP because artifacts are just so strong. If you can get Corrupt Vampiric Scepter, Warwick is really strong. Varus and Karma Warriors both use artifacts really well. Lucky Gloves, probably middle of the pack. Mage, not good. March of Progress is usually better for reroll, which is not great right now, although it's a lot of gold value. Marksman's Toolbox is really good on Varus. Multi-Striker Crown, vertical multi-strikers is good. New Recruit. Usually this isn't that good, but because you're playing around so many Preservers and Arcana now, that can be solid, but I think it's just like middle of B tier. Items are not good right now. Freaky Friday, I said items aren't good, but Infinity Force on like Warriors is really good. Portal Crown. I don't know if this is... The Shojin is the thing that makes this like not that great. I mean, eventually the Shojin would probably go on Nora or Nami, but you're primary carrying Rise initially, and so that Shojin's suboptimal item. Preserver Crown. I think the Preserver emblem itself is just like under a 4.5. Reroll's not very good right now. Pumping up's mainly with Callista. Pyro Crown I think is probably pretty good with if you're playing Varus. Right middle of the pack, Radiant Refactor, maybe even C tier. Same thing here. Roll the Dice is probably like middle of the pack, good for Warriors. Scholar Crown. The Scholar emblem I believe is good, but the Shojin, for the same reason as Portal, is not ideal for Rise. Shapeshifter is not good. Mogul's Mail got nerfed, and Gambler's Plate's not amazing. I think you mainly take this, like I've still seen this work. If you have a bunch of tank, so like if you have a blitz too with a bunch of tank items in the beginning, then you can try to get gold from it and eventually play into like Wukong reroll, or I don't even know what you like, probably Wukong reroll. You get attack speed, so you can also play towards Rise, or you could play towards like Callista Karma, but Gambler's Play is just kind of awkward too. Shopping spree. When you level up, gain a number of free shop refreshes equal to your level. I think the gold value on this is just not as good as the other ones. Manazane and Zhonya's both are very good on Gwen. Also, on Varus, Manazane is good, and Zhonya's good on Xerath. So I think this is like probably B tier, just because I don't think this is as, oh, maybe it's as strong as Freaky. I think it's a little bit lower strength than these two. Spoils of War, like, it's kind of like escort quest. You really gotta make sure you win streak with that. Subscription service gives you access to forecasts early, which is very strong right now. Sugarcraft, better at lower elo, not as good as high elo. Support Golem, like, I think that's the best combat in the game, especially late. Tiniest Titan's really good econ, similar to all of these. Tiny but deadly, middle of the pack. Upward mobility, I think similar to these with econ. With the upward mobility, I believe you just full sack. It's kind of like what doesn't kill you, because you get gold, or not gold, HP when you level up. You just sacrifice your early game. Is that buying XP costs 1 less, so you just want econ up early, so that gold can then be converted into more HP and free rerolls earlier. Vanguard, I mean, this is probably better just because of Warwick reroll if you have Empiric Scepter. Wandering Trainer, just emblems are very good right now. Warrior Crown, very good. What the Forge, very good. Witchcraft, good. Worth the wait. I think that's probably like down here. All right, let's see how we did. Prismatic. Okay, Living Forge, Frost Crown. I just realized you couldn't see that. Sorry about that. Hopefully I got that okay for the other ones. Blaster Crown, yes. Honey. Wow. I guess it's the stone plate. If you have a blitz 2 with a stone plate, this early tempo is probably just really strong. Where did I put honey? Okay. All right, I think honey, I guess in my mind, just honey reroll is just not that great anymore. But if you have the emblem, it's really, I think for this to work, maybe this is highly skewed by you're already like playing on a portal where you have the, like, let's say Wandering Trainer portal. I forget what it's called, but you already have a honey, so then you get 7 honey. I suspect that these stats are really skewed towards 7 honey. And if you're just playing 5 honey or 3 honey, it's probably not that strong is my guess. Okay, Golden Egg. I'm not even really going to count that. I mean, that's basically, if you're already winning, you win more. Warrior Crown. Dark Alley Dealings. Where did I put that? Oh, I put that here. Okay. All right, so Dark Alley Dealings, it's really good on Fiora and Morgana. What the Forge, yep. Upward Mobility. Okay, so out of all these econ ones, Upward Mobility is the best. Yeah, just lets you level up faster. It gives you so much gold and HP. All right, Upward Mobility, Support Golem. And then from here on out, it's actually A tier. So we'll go Pyro Crown, Tiniest Titan, Portal Crown, yep. Spellcaster's Toolbox. I had that in between, so yeah, it's just very good on, very flexible between basically the 2 best meta comps in Karma Warriors and Varus, Arcana Varus. Arcana Crown, I overvalued. I guess the adaptive is like kind of meh. It's like solid on Tom Kench, not amazing. And it could be good on Xerath later, but that's like much later. Hunter Crown. Yep, got that. Chrono Crown, dual purpose, yeah. Freaky Friday. Okay. Going long, yep. Fairy Crown, okay, did I overvalue Fairy Crown? Yeah. So 4.4. I guess it's the GS. Like the GS is not great. Particularly because when you play Fairy, you are already going to get the Fairy crown and, well, not this crown, but like the Fairy items and the armor. And so you need way fewer items. And Kalista, you usually want 2 Rage Blades or like a Rage Blade and a Gun Blade. And so the GS is kind of going on. So in this case, you're probably playing 7 Fairy with like a dual carry. Maybe like putting it on like a Morgana if you can get Morgana 2, or you get Camille 2 down the road. Like that GS becomes more valuable. But in like stage 4, that GS is like not really doing much. So I suspect that's why this is lower than I expected. But the Fairy Emblem is really good. Giant and Mighty. Okay, I was undervaluing that. It's probably because this is especially strong on Varus Arcana, because you're using the Arcana on Tom Kench, which gives your team more HP, and this is a percent plus 4% max health. So it's not just a flat increase, which it is 300 flat, but then also plus 4% max health. So a lot of value there. And it's probably good on warriors. Mage Crown, interesting. I mean, the Spark and the Mage Emblem makes Vhagar just a lot more playable. Immovable object. Where did I put that? Huh, undervalued that. Okay, oh, this is probably also because of Arcana Varus, the HP. And then all of your units get more tanky. Same with Karma Warriors. I'm the carry now, very solid. At what cost? Yeah. Multi-striker crown. Okay. Build a bud. All right, build a bud. I was undervaluing. I mean, this makes sense. It's like top 4 play, especially if you can get build a bud into the minor polymorph. You can get a 3-star 2 cost early. That's very strong. And then new recruit, scholar crown, roll the dice. Okay, I gotta roll the dice there. All right, so I'm not gonna go through the rest of these. I'm trying to see which A tier. Okay, Witchcraft. Witchcraft crown. This is the Gunblade. It's really bad on 2-1. It's good late, I guess, if you're already angling. But overall, Witchcraft crown is not good. Okay. Gotta adjust that in my mental model. I think I got all the rest of these. Tiniest. Up there, portal. Okay, what did I... Oh, level up. Interesting. Level up I thought would be good gold value, but I guess it's just way inferior to some of these other, like upward mobility is way more gold effective. Although on portals that give you extra gold, this I believe should be good. But right now it's like down here. All right. Did I I already looked at Arcana Crown, right? Yeah. Marksman. It's toolbox. Good on 3-2. This would be A on 3-2. Bad on 4-2 because it just takes too long for the fish bones to come, and you're down like half a prismatic and probably taking a lot of damage. So I'd say this is like end of here, maybe B tier. Let's put B tier. But specifically with Varus, it can be really good. Also, if you're going Kog'Maw reroll, this is super good on Kog'Maw reroll. All right, multi-striker, I think I already looked at. Subscription service. Okay, I thought subscription service was higher. This is actually C tier. That's interesting. I mean, the main thing is I played a subscription service game yesterday, and I was playing with 2 other players that also have subscription service. And I like the other people high rolled like a Gwen, and I low rolled like just a bunch of forecasts that were not great. And so it's probably high variance. If you get like, especially with Gwen, you get those sugar craft stacks going. You can even throw in 4 sugar early and help her stack, and then still transition into 2 sugar late. Like that can be really strong, but it's probably just high variance. And then on top of that, like you need to streak early, because once everybody else hits, you're down a prismatic. All right, Wandering Trainer. Huh, I thought this would be higher. Again, this is just going to be high variance. It's going to be better if you already have. Well, I think it was actually disabled where you can play it with the portal with emblems. Okay, this is actually down here. All right, no more Wandering Trainer. Too much variance. I'm the carry. Yeah, and build a bud. Okay, cool. So that's the analysis, and I apologize, this video went a little bit long, and I appreciate you kind of sitting through this. I don't know if I'm gonna do this kind of I'm really going into the nitty-gritty of my deliberate practice now, so thanks for sticking with me if you did. And if you have comments, thoughts, suggestions, I would love to hear it in the comments. And yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and I'll see you in the next one.